Hello, my loves. I got a special message for you today. Not your typical sexual soapbox, maybe more like a love in the time of COVID-19 or lust. Mostly love, though, because I feel like that's where we're at right now. That's what feels most needed. So, um, shit's scary right now, and there's a lot going on, and I think it can feel really overwhelming and daunting and anxiety producing. So I just wanted to put a couple things out there. First thing I want to say is that, I know at least here in Chicago, there are a lot of people still, out and about and crowding the streets and restaurants and bars. And so the reality is that there are lots of people who cannot stay home. They can't afford to stay home. Their livelihood depends on them staying home. And that includes people in the food service industry. So I'm a bit anxious to say, like, what the fuck are you doing? Stop going to those establishments. I will also say, however, if you can stay home, try to stay home. Not because the risk is for you getting sick. It might be, yourself, right? But for those of you that are, not immune deficient and are, regular, like young and healthy, just don't be reckless with going out. Adrienne Marie Brown had this amazing post. I adore her, that invited sort of just a reframe in thinking about, especially non-essential travel, in thinking about it, not in terms of, I might get sick or will I get sick? And oh no, I probably won't, so I'm not worried. But just thinking about it in terms of I might get someone else sick. And I very likely would contribute to someone else getting sick because we can carry this virus, we can transmit this virus. And keeping in mind that many people are not fortunate enough to be able to stay home. And so artists, freelancers, sex workers, anyone whose work is really dependent on events and large crowds of people, many of which have been canceled. If you're in a position to do so, I just really want to encourage you to reach out to those people, support those people with whatever resources are at your disposal, financially if possible. Otherwise, maybe it's with being able to drop off supplies. Maybe it's just emotional support. And I do think that there are ways beyond simply going out in droves to bars and restaurants to offer support to the individuals and the organizations. Because I'm hearing some amounts of carelessness in folks going out, and that just makes me a bit nervous in thinking about this, not just as like an individual issue, but as a community issue. There are amazing, amazing resources. In Chicago, there's this incredible resource that popped up. It's at transformativespaces.org, and it is this Chicago COVID-19 hardship and help website. And this hardship and help website, which was organized by Kelly Hayes and Delia Galindo, is a resource where people can submit requests for assistance, and people who are in positions to help can also contribute in multiple ways. So I just think that's fantastic. I highly recommend, if you're in Chicago, checking that out. If you're not in Chicago, I think this is a Mr. Rogers type moment of look for the helpers, and I'm willing to bet that there are other resources available in other cities. Feel free to put those, if you're watching this, in the comments. And then for artists and freelancers of all kinds, I just really, let's continue to reach out to our people, to reach out to our communities. I've seen a couple of really amazing efforts to organize, to bring people together, to offer people online, like consulting work, to share both financial and non-financial resources. My amazing, amazing friend Rachel Lark over in the Bay Area actually just put out this announcement that she's going to be hosting a free webinar on how to create a successful Patreon campaign for artists, which I think is fucking rad. She's such a badass at that. So if that's something of interest to you, I would check out Rachel Lark. You can check out her website, also lark.booking@gmail.com with the subject heading Patreon webinar is where I think she's starting to gather information about gauging interests and stuff. So that's really amazing. Just want to say that in terms of like community care, as like self-care being part of community care, and this being a moment where, you know, like really keeping that on the forefront of our minds. Okay, and then the other thing, as I said, love/lust in the time of COVID-19. I know that I've been feeling the social distancing advice creating a little bit of anxiety for me, and I know multiple people I've talked to have spoken to this, especially for folks where, you know, they're extroverted and literally like they're energetically just like feeding off of the presence of the ones that they love or of people is important. Also, you know, for individuals where even the prospect of isolation, any kind of social isolation, can bring up past trauma if social isolation has been part of that trauma, or it can just feel really anxiety producing. So I've been thinking about like what are things that we can offer ourselves and offer one another in this space. You'll notice, okay, so I'm doing one of them right now. I've been feeling a bit stir crazy, a bit overwhelmed, a bit running on high anxiety for the past couple days. I hadn't showered. I was just staying at home and trying like not to leave, but like looking at my Facebook feed and all of the feeds, the news feed, like constantly. And I finally had to impose some restrictions for myself of like, okay, you want to stay up to date, you want to stay informed, you can do that for X amount of time. Now you're going to take, 15 minutes to step away, to not look at any screen, to breathe, to take a drink of water. I started doing this thing of when I'm washing my hands, which I'm trying to do a lot. Instead of leaning into like the anxiety of that, like I'm like going like full fucking like Lady M over here, like literally trying to remind myself to feel my hands, to feel the like warmth of the water on my hands and the soap, and to try to like give myself that 20-second, even just a little 20-30-second hand massage, and then also to rub my hands with lotion afterwards, because I don't know about y'all, but when I wash my hands a lot, they start to get dry. So just trying to, again, like a simple reframe of taking it as a reminder to touch myself gently on all counts. The other thing that I did, maybe obviously, is I showered, and I decided that even if I was going to be cooped up inside, I just wanted to feel in my body and feel sexy. And so for me, sexy today looked like putting on all my costume jewelry and putting on my makeup and putting on some sexy lingerie, which at first I was like, this is absurd and this is frivolous and what are you doing? And then I thought, well, but this is also my body and my physical existence, and guess what? My anxiety and my fear never helped anyone, including me. But feeling sexy and connected to my body did, and I think does. So that's one thing I will say is, like, I say a lot when I do sex positivity work, that the thing that to me is so important about sex and sexuality and eroticism is that it's yours. It's self-contained. The longest relationship you'll ever have sexually is with yourself. So again, like, doing the shit that you need to get done to get through this, absolutely. Doing the shit that you can afford, both financially and emotionally, to show up for the community and to be here, yes. And also allowing yourself, and maybe even scheduling time, if you're like a scheduling person, to step away for a minute, to come to like ground yourself a little bit in your body. I think especially with anxiety surrounding physical health, sometimes there's a tendency to disconnect even further from the body, or to, again, to see the body as this like dangerous thing, right? Understandably, but to give those health precautions, those safety precautions to your body with generosity towards your body, and as a way of caretaking, as opposed to a way of, like, I don't know, punishing or shutting down or all of that. So for me, that looked like dressing up, walking around my apartment, listening to music and unplugging for a second before I got back on and started figuring out how to navigate these next couple weeks, where all my work and life has been completely wiped clean for the next 2 weeks. So there's that. And then the other thing, again, I think it's important to say that social distancing is not social isolation. And that seems simple, but I just think it's really important to say social distancing is not social isolation. It doesn't have to be social isolation. And I think maybe this is a moment where we can invite ourselves to get really creative with how we're connecting with one another. Constraints and boundaries and restraints sometimes are generators of creativity. They're generators of a lot of creativity. Any of y'all who've ever been in a long-distance relationship knows that there are a myriad of ways that you can create connection, both sexual and non. I want to be clear, both sexual and non, but across great distances. And I just feel like now is the moment to pull out that entire arsenal, that entire toolbox. And maybe we can then shift to thinking about this social distancing as an opportunity for some social edging, as it were, right? Maybe, really getting good with practicing your words via text, via email, via video. So many of us are so lucky to have access to internet and access to video messaging platforms. I've had so many amazing FaceTimes and Skypes and Marco Polo. For those of you that are not on Marco Polo, great moment, little adult messaging. I mean, not adult in the industry adult kind of way. Not that young people can't use it. I just feel like they don't. I feel like an old lady when I talk about Marco Polo, because most young people are like, what? TikTok? Get on that. And which I'm not on, so maybe I should. I don't know. Sidebar, not important. The point is, I even wrote a letter today and did not lick the envelope. Did not lick the envelope. I scotch taped it neatly shut. Again, snail mail takes a little bit longer, and we'll see honestly what happens with snail mail. But just inviting in creative ways to still engage. Even those of you that are, I've heard a lot of talk about if those of you that are booed up, snuggle up with your partner, get cute, make a little pillow fort staycation situation adorable. That's lovely. I would still say double down on safer sex practices, hygiene-wise, right? Of especially if you or your partner are also, for any reason, going out into the world, either before or after. And also, if you're not comfortable with that, maybe this is the moment to try doing some long-distance style, sexy videoing with one another, or with yourself if you're not partnered. Or, I just think that our creativity it doesn't need to stay dormant, and nor does our erotic life. It just needs a touch of creativity. And I think that can seem maybe tangential or even frivolous in moments like this, but I like to remind folks that, this is your human embodied experience, and sometimes returning to your body and returning to the creative capacity that you have for connection can be one of the most healing and necessary things. And your sexual self is part of your whole self. And I do think that it can still be nourished. So social distancing does not equal social isolation. It does not have to. I am here for all of the abundance of creativity and creative ideas for what that can look like, how that can sound. Stay healthy, take precautions, stay safe, tell your people you love them, show your people you love them in all the virtual ways, many ways, more than one. And try to stay sane, and we can continue to show up for one another. I love you. And next time you wash your hands, remember to thank them for all of the amazing things that they can do, and you're just keeping them nice and clean as a thank you, not as a punishment. Reframe. I love y'all. Take care of one another. Mwah.